Greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on BlazeTV radio and podcast. It is the final day of Harris and Butker week, which is good because I really need to wash this jersey. I've worn it 3 times. So I am Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. He is Aaron McIntyre. She is Tracy Beans, the editor-in-chief of Uncovered DC, and she will be joining us momentarily for the Deace Group. And we are joining you courtesy of our good friends at First Cup Coffee Company. They have a flavor for every freedom-loving American. If you want to sign up today, don't just sign up because they share your values. That's not good enough for us. You actually have to do a good product first. And they do. We believe in meritocracy. That's a value as well. So they do excellent coffee. Just ask Aaron. Every time I do, he vouches for them. And they give you 10% off with the code DACE when you go to firstcup.com. Firstcup.com, promo code DACE with a flavor for every freedom-loving American. They put the roast date right there on every single bag within days of being shipped, so you can see they try to get it to you as fresh as possible as well. If you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off too when you go to firstcup.com and use the promo code DACE. Also want to let you know that we are in the midst of, I think, some of the best work we have ever done at The Blaze. This series that Matt Kibbe has put together with our team here at BlazeTV called The Cover-Up. It is just absolutely phenomenal. And even for somebody like me, who has been one of the people, on the tip of the spear when it comes to pushing back on this narrative, going all the way back to March of 2020. Watching these, I'm learning things I was not aware of. So featuring Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who we just had on the show, Dr. Scott Atlas, who will be on the show next week, Senator Rand Paul, who endorsed Todd and I's book, Fauci and Bargain. This is an absolutely outstanding piece of work here at The Blaze. If you want to see that, and while you're seeing it, you'll get a chance to get a greatly reduced subscription as well, a greatly discounted subscription to Blaze TV if you go to FauciCoverup.com/Dace. That's FauciCoverup.com/Dace. Use the code FauciLied. You'll get $30 off your annual subscription to Blaze TV at FauciCoverup.com/Dace. Use the code FauciLied, and you won't just get to see this outstanding series, but all of the other exclusive work that we do each and every day here at The Blaze as well. All right, coming up next hour, it'll be your turn on a Feedback Friday. But first, it is time for the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with Aaron's Issue 1, Bleep Lord Nefarious Says.
We as Democrats have to get Alvin Bragg's back, and we need to speak out about that. We need to surround our brother, especially the Congressional Black Caucus and black Democratic leaders from across this country. We need to surround him because since the very beginning, they were mischaracterizing him, calling him out his name, and being racist as hell to Alvin Bragg. And I know I deal with it directly.
Noted with respect to Judge Marchand. I mean, I am like now, I have like a man crush on him. He is such a great judge that it's hard to see that the jurors wouldn't have the same impression.
And some have done studies. Peter Hotez has done an analysis of this and shows that in people who refuse to get vaccinated for any variety of reasons, probably responsible for an additional 200,000 to 300,000 deaths in this country.
We're not testing to really see how many people have been exposed and got asymptomatically infected. We should be testing every cow weekly. You can do pooled PCR. We have the technology. Where I was identified as representing gender ideology and a threat to children. My work would indoctrinate them, or my work would license pedophilia, or my work and the work of gender more broadly would teach them how to become homosexual, or teach them that they must become homosexual. Which is
kind of true.
Kind of wild.
Kind of worked, yeah.
Talk about where the wild things are. Well, of course we know Eve Kosofsky-Sedgwick said, yes, we do teach that,
I love killing babies. I love it.
Jesus will come. We have to give her the word.
I've had like 45 abortions and I'm going to keep having them.
We are God. We are God.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you bracing yourself?
Star Wars. Not the people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly...
You're offended?
Into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
How much should a candidate's cognitive function factor into that decision when someone votes?
I don't even know what that question means. I mean,
when they vote, should they be thinking about which candidate, how they're functioning cognitively?
Sure, absolutely. They should.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
All right, first question, Tracy. It's both ladies first and the guest first here on the round table. So what was the most abomination that you were just subjected to, and why?
You guys never make it easy. For me, it's the Fauci blaming the unvaccinated for 300,000 deaths, because it ranks up there with the woman with the 45 abortions, because both of them can I'm not responsible for murdering anyone. And the little elf sitting there in front of the camera, on the other hand, is likely responsible for many, many, many more than 300,000 people passing away, whether it's remdesivir, the shot, the AIDS epidemic, the list goes on. So that was insanely frustrating for me.
Can you explain to me how, if his vaccine worked and you were vaccinated with it, how did the people who didn't get the vaccine cause deaths? Can you?
It's called understanding what the word cognitive means. Like the last woman, that woman is actually the one who Fauci is appealing to, because they have no brain cells. This has been the age-old argument, Steve, for vaccination forever. As a matter of fact, there was just a debate the other day where I saw two people doing this, and the pro-vaccine mandate guy was saying, hey, if unvaccinated people come into a community, then they get this disease, whatever it is, they'll infect the rest of the community. It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense.
Yeah. Is this the first product in human history where its failure was blamed on the people who did not purchase or use it?
On such a wide scale, yes, but they've been doing this to strong arm people into childhood vaccination for decades and decades. They do it with measles, they do it with mumps, they do it with everything. So this is the one who got the most attention because it was a global mass vaccination campaign.
So I've used this example. I used this example all throughout 21 and 22 as this was all being debated on the front burner daily. I mean, what went on here with this particular vaccination program, I just don't know how it could not cause me to reevaluate my entire thought process on the issue. I mean, I'm given two options. I either have to accept that this is this was a uniquely dark circumstance where they just uniquely acted in such sinister ways, and which is an option. That's an option, but it's one of the only two options. Or this is not the first time they've done something like this. Okay, so before I got to that point, I was pointing out the entire time, I went and did a mission trip in Haiti in 2014. The Obama administration had Haiti on basically what amounts to a communicable disease watch list. And in order for me to be welcomed back into the U.S. after being in that country, the poorest in our hemisphere, I had to document that all of my childhood vaccination schedule and boosters had all been updated and were current. Like TB, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I couldn't come back, because the presupposition was that if I had these things updated before I left, so I got their shots, and then I went down there for a few weeks and commiserated in some of the darkest recesses of Haiti with people who think literally running water is manna, is from heaven, a gift from the Lord, because they can't even take that for granted, that I would be totally fine upon my return, because I've already received the necessary vaccine, so I'm immune from the people in Haiti who were unvaccinated, right? I mean, that would, whether you agree with, the vaccinations themselves, that at least checks out logically, right? I got the shots before I left. I go down to this very impoverished area And I'm allowed back here to the U.S. because I got their shots. That makes perfect sense, right? So then why doesn't that apply here with the COVID shot? Why is it that the people who didn't get it were the ones that were the danger to the people who did? How would that make sense? By that logic, the Obama administration should have never let me or anybody else back into the country, no matter how many shots we got, because we were, exposed to people who were getting no shots, right? That would be the actual logic if it was consistent, right?
Yeah, but this was, a novel technology. They wanted in the arms of billions of people. So none of that matters. None of it matters. Just put the damn thing in your arm and move on with your day. Stop complaining. Otherwise, you won't be able to get health care. We're going to excoriate you from everyday society and leave you out on the side of the road and just watch you die of a nasty heart attack. If you need life-saving care, you won't be allowed to have it. It's the biggest tragedy in the history of the world because it impacts literally every single person in the world. End of story.
Amen.
It's terrible.
All right, Todd, your thoughts on Aaron's montage this week? What stuck out to you?
Well, and we will plunge that needle in our arm, Tracy. And we will... Listen, Fauci, the joke of the media there at the end, just transparently wicked. All right? The transgender couple right there giggling. Yeah, we're transing the kids. Yeah, we called the code red. Yeah, all of it. You could pick all of it, but why is it possible? Why will you plunge? No matter how much evidence you get about the horrors, why will you do it? That's why my worst of the week is the Star Wars thing. As transparently, that's enough. And all of our pop culture, all of our pop entertainment these days is that transparently noxious. Sports, TV, movies, video games, all of it. All of it is meant to make us just whistle along as we see montages like that. The whole goal with Star Wars was to take it like this, knew you were addicted to it, either destroy it or use it as a psyop on you, and it's all working. That's why it's a worst way. That is good enough. We will accept that. Just keep giving us that, and we'll ignore the rest. It's the people are the problem. They're just like, no, Star Wars, they're going to continue to build amusement parks. People are going to continue to go them. Because that's all we want at this point.
Aaron.
So, at the clip at the end there, do you think that guy at Scripps, I think it was Scripps News, do you think in the production meetings since that little soundbite with the Biden spokeswoman, in the production meetings, do you think they sounded something like this? You know what? How much should the cognitive function of a Biden spokesperson factor into whether or not we have them on our program? Do you think they're having that conversation during their production meetings now? Because I don't think you want to respond to a question about cognitive function by saying, I don't know what this question means.
It's so good.
But you do you, Elrod, Adrian Elrod. Judith Butler, the godmother of queer theory. You heard that clip there. I almost didn't use it because it's pretty clear at the beginning. She's describing how she has been billed. And I thought that, somebody just ripped this clip out of context to make it appear or sound like she's actually stating positively what she believes.
Until she owns it at the end.
Until she owns it. She does the rhetorical, by golly, now that you think about it, yeah, it does kind of give us a license to be groomers. So
who knew?
Well, who knew? Yeah. That's the worst.
Yeah, that is the worst, other than just I have a visceral disdain for even looking at the presence of Debbie Birx. I mean, I can't even look at her. So other than, I mean, she could, it wouldn't matter what she was doing on a screen. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter what she was saying. I just have a visceral disgust to the image of Debbie Birx.
You have an influenza-like illness when you see her face.
Yeah. We'll call it that to avoid calling it what it really is, which would get us all banned. Okay? So let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds that Joe Biden's new border security executive order will do anything to significantly secure the border, and 10 being the odds Hunter Biden smoked crack. Rank this week's level of total depravity. Aaron.
10.
Todd.
Yeah, I'm back as a strong 10 after my lapse of judgment last week.
Yes, indeed. I thought I was just going to let it go. We all have an off week. So I was just going to let it slide. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yep. Tracy.
Definitely a 10. This was terrible. All of it.
Yes.
Thanks.
It was terrible. All of it. Indeed it was. Before we move on, let's get a little palate cleanser. If you're one of those people that, you may have watched the hearings the Republican majority had this week with Anthony Fauci. We're in between slurps. You're like, this probably isn't going the way that I thought. They're not really asking the questions I was thinking. Right?
Right.
Yeah, there was that. Mm-hmm. Maybe forgot that the Republican majority, they could have just rescinded the subpoena that Steve Bannon didn't honor. Like, he doesn't. Anybody think it's a coincidence they're going to put Steve Bannon in prison from July to November in an election year? This is like Judith Butler. There's not even. Oh, yeah. You mean that lines up with we took a top 10 podcast on the right off the air and just lines up with when there's an election? Come to think of it, you're right. Okay. So are there people we could actually align with that are doing some good? Yeah. Yeah. You're just probably not going to find them in many cases if it starts with the term Republican. All right. And so align with people like Preborn instead. They're actually pushing back against the spirit of the age. They're actually stacking W's, and really the most important W's of them all, because they are literally saving lives. They're on the streets. They're building clinics. They are literally confronting women gently, but it's a confrontation, who are considering the murder of their children. They are showing them ultrasound so that they can see, no, sweetie, that's a second heartbeat. No human's ever been born with two distinct heartbeats. That's a different person. And the majority of the time, when they confront those women in the situation that my mama was in back in the day, they don't go through with killing their kid. But here's the thing that on top of just that would be enough. But what I love that they do there is that they understand most of the time. Now, increasingly, we are seeing more and more women like what's in Aaron's montage. Just sociopaths, basically. Not victims of circumstance, okay? Where things got too heated with a high school boyfriend and you're pregnant. That's what happened with my mom 50 years ago. Now they're just sociopaths all too often, shouting their abortion, unfortunately. But most of the time still, it is a woman who is not in a secure and healthy relationship who is considering killing her child, not one who is. And so that woman needs support when she chooses life. They're there for her too. And that's why we want to be there for them. All right, everything they do. Both these ultrasounds, but then the prenatal, the postnatal care counseling, everything they do for these women and these babies, it's all free of charge, provided they have tax-deductible funding from people like us. So if you'd like to make one of those donations today, you got $28 laying around, because that's all it costs for one of their ultrasounds. Probably not too many better investments of $28 you're going to make today than to go to preborn.com/Steve and make that donation today. Preborn.com/Steve is where you want to go. Again, head over to preborn.com/Steve. All right, let's get to issue 2. Are they really going to put Trump in prison?
Donald Trump was convicted by a Manhattan jury late last week under an obscure legal theory called Donados in Nubilo Die, which is Latin for Donald Trump on a cloudy day. Rubicons were crossed, civil wars were declared, normies didn't stand for this, all the usual fare from all the online usual suspects. Now our attention turns to next month, with Trump's sentencing slated to go down on July 11th, just a few days before the Republican National Convention. Trump's fate rests largely with Judge Merchan, who could choose punishments ranging from prison and house arrest to probation and community service.
So each of the felony counts that Trump has been convicted of in New York carry a maximum of 4-year prison sentences. So if you multiply that times 34, I mean, we're almost to when Zefram Cochrane makes first contact with the Vulcans via warp drive. All right. Of course, Trump at his age will be dead long before that, and so will probably the Republic. But I digress. So let's go to the question, shall we? Todd, I'll start with you. Are they really going to put him in prison? What do you think?
Yeah. I just look what happened with COVID. We kept waiting for common sense to kick in and never did. Look at how we begged and pleaded then, going specifically to Trump post-election loss. But we had much different advice for how you fight that in a narrow window of time. None was taken. So Yeah, this entire campaign has not substantively been about the issues. It's been about the personalities. Steve has told you what that usually means in politics. I am just absolutely wish casting if I think anything other than, of course, they're going to try to put him in prison. Of course.
Aaron Todd says, of course they are. What do you think?
Of course not. They already have the talking point that they want, which is Donald Trump, convicted felon. Again, I go back to Alex Soros, son of George Soros, pointing out, hey, this is what we want, repetition. Just keep saying Donald Trump, convicted felon over and over and over again. Here's why I say, of course not. What would be better? What's the only thing better than putting Trump on house arrest, incarcerating him in some respect? What's the only thing that's better than that? Having the next however many months, 4 or 5 months being, that son of a gun got off the hook again. That's what I think is going on here. This has all been designed as marketing and branding. The better marketing would be that's freaking Teflon Don. He's escaping the law again. He got off the hook again. That's what I think this is going towards.
I wish they thought like marketers, Aaron. They want to put all of us in prison. And they sit and watch while we generally let it happen because we got Star Wars to watch. I wish they were thought like marketers. They think like absolutely bloodthirsty tyrants who want to kill us all.
What do I always say, though, Todd? The only degrees that they're handing out at the University of Hell is a degree in marketing. That's the only degree that they're handing out there.
All right. Tracy, you get to break the tie here. What say you?
I think they are going to put him in jail, either try to attempt to do it in New York or do it on house arrest. And that, I believe, honestly, is one of the reasons why Joe Biden enthusiastically accepted an invitation to debate, because they knew that this would be the likely end result. And so they're not going to Zoom Trump in from his home to debate when they won't have control over, certain aspects of things then, and it won't be, quote, fair. I always say this. I keep saying it. I cover the law very often in my work. Dispense with the fact or the notion, that we have a functioning justice system in this country. It is gone. It does not exist anymore. Yes, I'm with the pro-prison camp, unfortunately.
See, I love Aaron's analysis that, every demon in hell has a marketing degree. I think that's right on the money. But I'm reminded of a scene from my own movie. Okay? And it's the scene that everybody on our side laughs hysterically at, when the atheist is making the case to the demon that the doctrines of demons that he thinks are his original ideas are actually making the culture and the world better. Okay, and during that back and forth, there is a moment, and so that's where I think where Aaron's perspective is correct. You can see their marketing is so good, okay, that this guy is regurgitating Nefarious' own talking points back to him and thinks that these are like progressive utopian ideals. Okay, but and Nefarious makes that very clear. But then there's a moment when he says, "And hate speech, we didn't even come up with that one. You guys did that one all yourselves. Sometimes you amaze even us." Okay, I mean, what we're dealing with here is, I think we're not dealing with slick levels of demonic marketing. If slick levels of demonic marketing are Judith Butler 40 years later, after being able to escape getting that label pinned on her, just saying, "Oh yeah, it was Agnes all along." Okay, basically, that's essentially what she did. Okay, yes. All right. The mob outside Lot's house, which is just human nature unrestrained, run amok, with no divine level of accountability that it acknowledges whatsoever, is bring out those men so we can have our way with them. And that's what I think is happening here. I mean, the level of bloodlust here.
That's what I think is happening with J6ers. That's what I think is happening with the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, throwing 75-year-olds in prison. That's what I think is happening here. I think the bigger win for them is to continue to dial this thing up to 11 over and over and over again. And I don't think you get to do that if you just say, "Okay, he's incarcerated in his house now." I think you get to. I think you get to say, "Hey, this son of a gun got off the hook again." I think that's what the hellish take would be. I don't disagree. This is demonic. I don't disagree this is chaotic. I don't disagree that this is man unleashed upon men. I do not disagree with that. I'm just saying, I'm thinking like I'm trying to get into the mind of chaos. That would be chaotic. That's what hell wants. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Tracy, go ahead.
You would need to have the New York gelling as your marketing backbone, given what's happening in the Cannon case down in Florida. He everything else seems to be kind of falling apart. Fonnie Willis is postponed till next March. This is the only one they've got, and now they've got to exploit it as much as possible. So that's
listen. The Biden Justice Department just today, breaking news, they put this guy, Ethan Haim, I think, this doctor who blew the lid on the Texas transgender nonsense. They're putting him in jail. Yep. All right, guys. This isn't marketing was yesterday. Today is pain. Wake up.
True or false? Let's get to the
I still don't think you understand what I'm trying to say.
No,
go ahead.
All right, no, take another 30 seconds, Aaron, and get the last word.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to get inside. Yes, this is all following a very logical path here. Okay? Yes, we've been forecasting this since the very beginning. I'm not just saying the marketing for marketing's sake. I'm trying to get inside the mind of chaos here. And I think that would be the chaotic conclusion to what has been a very logical path that has gotten us to this point. Even though it's been unfair, dishonest, what have you, I'm just trying to say this is the chaos ending.
Okay. Let's get to the exit question then. True or false? And we got about 2 minutes to ponder this. Trump will not lawfully be able to give his convention acceptance speech in person in Milwaukee. True or false? Aaron?
False.
False. Tracy, true or false?
I'd have to say true if what we all just talked about happens.
Todd? True. True. As someone who's been saying they're going to put him in prison since last March, the one thing that there is a workaround is the existing law with Secret Service and a former president. Okay. And a lot of you have heard this to mean that they wouldn't turn him over. That's just some, Reddit user fantasy. That's not what that means. What it means is that a former president has to have that level of security no matter where he's at. Okay. And so how do you put him in Rikers Island, with an armed security guard? What does that look like? Okay. Do you put him in solitary? Okay. Maybe it's home confinement does that. I'm sure that he has some residents left in New York State where they could do that too, even if it's just Trump Tower. Okay. But so we could, that's why to me, I think the term I would use maybe more is incarceration, because that can take a couple of different forms, more so than just roll him into Rikers Island. But I absolutely believe that if there's a way they can roll him into Rikers Island with a Secret Service agent, I absolutely believe they'll do that. And the only reason that they won't is there's just not a way to do that. So they'll incarcerate him in another way. This is the walk of shame they have been waiting for. They cannot wait. What's that scene in Game of Thrones, which turns out to be the evil Quaid, but they strip her down and make her walk the walk of shame so they can all yell at her and throw things at her. To tell them, I just can't see them putting it back in their pants now and saying, we'll take a cold shower, guys. I can't see that. Aaron makes a compelling case, but I think we're actually not dealing now with demonic planning. I think we're dealing with unrestrained human nature, just straight out mob outside of Lot's house kind of stuff. That's what I think. All right. Can you imagine just from house arrest over Zoom? A guy gives his convention acceptance speech. Just how bizarre that even is. And I hate to say this, though. Does it feel like it really isn't that big of a deal?
No. It doesn't.
It doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal. Because nothing's really changing or doing anything differently, despite all the Rubicons we've apparently crossed.
Well, we were all under house arrest 4 years ago, so...
That's...
we're used to it.
Yes. And if we're being brutally honest, he was one of the reasons why.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
one of the reasons why he's in this position right now, is that he went along with that.
But it's all going to happen because it doesn't feel like a big deal to people. They're comfortably numb.
We'll come back. More Deace Group in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. You guys know, because I mentioned it, I was down at Rise Up Con with Kevin Sorbo and John Schneider and a bunch of folks doing a conference on promoting, raising awareness, improving faith-based filmmaking over the weekend, last weekend. One of the primary sponsors there, in fact, one of the rooms where I presented was sponsored by Patriot Mobile. That's just one specific example when we tell you about how they take your profits that you give them and they put them back into the kingdom to be prophetic with them. That's just one example. Saw it with my own eyes last weekend. In fact, I cannot think of like a national event on the right that I have done or been to in the last few years that Patriot Mobile didn't have a presence and or wasn't a sponsor, and they were helping to foot the bill for the event. So they have an outstanding product, great customer service team. They're U.S. based. That means you can understand them. And they also, as I just said, are helping to build the parallel economy. So if you want to make the switch today, you can keep your phone, use this as the occasion to upgrade your phone. You can keep your number because you're like, I love getting those 27 obnoxious robo-texts from the Republican Party every day. So I'm going to keep my number because they know where I'm at. You're weird, but that's okay. YOLO. Everyone else, you can change your number too when you make the switch at patriotmobile.com. And just try to play hide and seek with the RNC because they'll just take your money and do nothing with it. All right, so go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. Give your money to them instead. patriotmobile.com/Steve. If you're a veteran or first responder, they've got extra ways to say thank you for your service. Just let them know when you go to make the switch. Everyone, use my name, Steve, as a promo code to get a free activation when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, let's welcome in editor-in-chief of Uncovered DC, contributor over at the High Wire, jack of all trades, master of at least a few. Tracy Beans here with us on the Deace Group. Let's get to issue 3. Speaking of which, are we just better off without the Republican Party at this point?
With friends like these, here's how Dr. Fauci's testimony before the House Select Subcommittee on COVID started with Republican Chairman Dr. Brad Wenstrup.
Thank you for your decades of public service. I'm sorry about the threats that you have received. My heart goes out to you. This should never happen, and I want to extend our appreciation and gratitude. I want to thank you publicly for working with our Doctors Caucus during Operation Warp Speed. I also want to thank you for your willing cooperation with the Select Subcommittee, and we appreciate it.
So let's just start with this question. What I led off with. Aaron, I'll start with you. Are we just better off without the Republican Party at this point? Like would we be more successful pushing back on the spirit of the age if we weren't tempted to consistently turn to this party as an apparatus for doing so when it's basically not?
So I was going to ask you who the we is, and you seem to indicate it there with your parenthetical information that you gave there. We as in like the American people, concerned citizens, concerned about the spirit.
Yeah, the
of
Democrats wouldn't be better off without the Republican Party.
Because if we're talking about
That's
we,
true.
as in media, I don't know. How are you going to get all these sound bites without the Republican Party?
Right. I mean, John Kennedy, roll out of bed, vote every way the Democrats want him to on every piece of legislation, but give us the soundbite that'll rock Fox News' primetime lineup tonight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. It depends on who the we is, because it'd be a lot harder to get the sound bites that we wanted if we didn't have the Republican Party. Not talking about results. Results are for cucks and losers.
Correct.
But it'd be a lot harder for sound bites. But in terms of actually pushing back, like actual results and things, I don't know. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to win ever?
Is this your version of the Joker telling Batman at the end of The Dark Knight, I'm not going to kill you, you're just too much fun?
Why would we want to do that? We've been so successful at selling a lot of trinkets and widgets and things like that. And this party has been kind of in that same orbit. You kind of need that. So I don't know. Why would you want to win and push back and get results and things like that? It seems like we don't want any of that. So the Republican Party is perfect for us, for we the people.
Tracy, you're next.
We keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And we're like, a large mass of us is like the puppet on the puppeteer strings, that if somebody says, go vote for this person because I say they're good, people just shut off their brains and we put these same people in office. You couldn't be more unprepared if you had it. It was the most insanely frustrating thing to watch for me. These people go out and talk to this guy. They could have asked him anything sitting there. There was only one interaction in that entire hearing that was even worth having the hearing at all. And it was McCormick when he was talking about the things he experienced during COVID. It is insanely frustrating. I have been waiting for this to happen where we say no more for 20-something years. It's overdue. Can everyone just wake up, please? Stop doing the same thing over and over and over again and take control of what's going on here, because you are the ones with it. You go to the voting booth, start primarying people, finding out what's going on in your neighborhoods, getting involved. Shut off the television, just shut it off and do your thing at home and stop this insanity. Yes, we would be better off without them. They're useless. They might as well be working. Well, they are. I mean, it's a uniparty. We all know this for years. Get rid of them yesterday. It's just basically being harassed by a telemarketer all day long now. Enough. I'm done. I'm angry. Steve, I'm angry.
Then you have come to the right place, sister. All right, Todd, go ahead.
On one hand, of course, for two reasons. It's one giant grift, just as Steve is on one particular issue that you think is incredibly important. But Big Baby has been formed just to self-sustain itself and hold marches. The entire Republican Party is that. And then their cover for that is, how we do things, the system, be nice. We don't want to become them, so we have to do the paint by numbers thing. So we need to explode all of that, because the other side absolutely uses and abuses that sense of things to do whatever the hell it wants to us. So yes, but then I think it's not just them. I can't just point at them, because that's us. That's us even at the level of the church. A newsflash, we talk about this all the time. Is the church largely engaged in a grift, running itself as a business? We talked about that a couple days ago. And is the gospel preached to you most often? Steve talked about it this very week about self-editing. How often are you just hearing, basically the gospel you hear is be nice? So yeah, get rid of the Republican Party.
Am I hearing you say the people are the problem, Todd?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the people are the problem. Yeah.
So yeah, get rid of them. Absolutely. But we're still, all of a sudden, if you think that's like Wonder Woman, where Ares is dead and everybody's like, peace at last. No. You're a grifter. You just want to be nice. You don't want to do a damn thing.
Where I do think, you know what, let's do this actually. Let's take a couple of minutes and look at COVID. Where we saw, how would I explain it? A significant yet ragtag group of people, many of whom did not previously know each other. You and I would be an example of this, Tracy. Just kind of organically emerge across a lot of different geographic and in many cases, when you look at people like an RFK Jr. or Brett Weinstein, across partisan or even ideological lines, to create a counter ecosystem to one of the greatest the greatest colossus of coercive narrative in all of human history. And we were able to put a dent in it enough to slow it down. Now, here's the question, though. Okay, if we don't have three governors, all right, Brian Kemp in Georgia, Ron DeSantis in Florida, Kim Reynolds in Iowa. So Brian Kemp was kind of in 2020, he was the face of COVID skepticism as far as governors, and The Atlantic writing about his experience, his experiment in human sacrifice, etc. Iowa was actually the first state to reopen under a gubernatorial decree. And then in 21 and 22, Ron DeSantis clearly created the face of the resistance that finally toppled the COVID regime. If we did not have those three Republican governors, could we, with the force of our organic movement on its own, have ended this thing? I'm asking that. I think that's really the question to ask to answer this question. Is there a place where eventually we have to move from we have a dissident ecosystem of information to we can actually make governing decisions. You see what I'm saying? That's my dilemma. Tracy, how would you answer that?
I say yes, because those governors used the information, Steve, that you and I and others were bringing out there to make the decisions they made. And that's why I keep saying it's our responsibility. You should never give away your power to anyone else ever. That is the core concept of freedom. And we didn't. And we refused to, and we were loud, and we wouldn't shut up about it. And that gave them, even if it was only at the very bare bones, the cover they needed to act boldly. And they also paid attention to what we were saying. So yes, we could have.
Okay. Let's get to the exit question. And I want to make sure everybody's got plenty of time to answer this one. This is one of the tougher exit questions I think I've ever asked in the history of this segment. Can you say something unironically, Aaron? Unironically, Aaron. Exactly. All right. I put that word in there for you. Okay. Can you say something unironically or non-sarcastically, Todd? Can you say something unironically or non-sarcastically positive about the Republican Party, Todd?
No. I mean, was that a prompt for me to try, or did you want an honest answer?
I wanted whatever your honest answer was. No. Aaron. Unironically, Aaron.
Chip Roy and Ron DeSantis are Republicans.
Okay. Tracy.
He gets demerits. That's not an answer.
He gets demerits.
I tried.
Come on. You skirted the question. Come on. Are we in a political GOP debate here?
That was some mom justice right
I was just thinking the same thing. That sounded like somebody's mom.
Come here, kid.
Okay, exactly. That was the broadcasting equivalent of grabbing Aaron by the ear and saying, we need to have a talk. Okay. Tracy, how would you answer that question?
I'm not going to. I can't. At current day, nothing. Zero.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Overwhelmingly, it's an obstacle to our cause. Overwhelmingly, I mean the level of controlled opposition. Washington General, surrender now before it's too late. Failure theater. It just so overwhelmingly gets in the way that, and I should show you guys what Chip says to me privately about what it is like. Okay. I mean, it is just everything that you think is publicly is with this conversation we had with Ryan Walters yesterday about what's happening to him in Oklahoma is legion everywhere. All right, let's have some fun, shall we? Okay. I mean, they sold the hem of his garment. They had that puppy ready to go, right? They were selling pieces of his suit that he got indicted in. Remember that? Okay. They had the gold shoes ready to go. Okay, right? They had that, okay? The trading cards, all right? So I think we all know, okay, the Trump prison picture, okay, black and white is coming, okay? And that's going to they're going to market the H-double hockey sticks out of that. So our kicker topic this week is, what will Trump's prison tat be? Okay, that will be on all of the marketing photos when they put him into Rikers Island. And no regrets is not an option. Okay, so what will Trump's prison tat be, Aaron?
Pretty simple, actually. It's just going to be a string of numbers. Those numbers happen to be the same check number that was used to pay off Stormy Daniel. It's just going to be tattooed right across his chest.
That would actually be a great troll. That would be a tremendous troll. And now that I think about it.
Not a very complicated tattoo, but...
No, but that would be quite the troll. Todd.
It'll be that picture, that really dumb, sedated look, his jaw is hanging down of Biden. And because he'll think, even though that Biden will have owned him on a debate stage, and to the extent that he's put him in prison, Trump thinks a tattoo of Biden looking stupid will be like equal justice.
You can't get a tattoo of another man on you under any circumstance. That is a dude code violation. There is no context by which you can have another man tattooed on you. No, that can't happen. Tracy.
I was thinking about this intently, and this is all I've come up with. The Rikers Wall.
What is the
Put it in
Rikers?
Gold.
Oh.
The.
Yes. Okay, I got you. I like it. See, I was thinking something, you got to go to his age group too, something edgy, I was thinking like Untouchable, something like that.
Oh.
Okay. I was thinking something along those lines. No?
Like the gangster?
Todd is not even entertaining this question, and it was his idea. I'm only asking this question because this is what Todd thought would be a cool question. And now he is just defecating all over the question. This was your idea.
And I gave you my answer. I don't take... I guess I should... Maybe this is the most serious thing I should take about him. I don't know.
This is a golden marketing opportunity. There's no way that they're passing up on this. No way. Absolutely no way. I will be deeply disappointed if there is not some defiant Trump prison tat if they put him in prison. There's got to be. Got to be. All right, let's... You know what? What would be the most Trumpian thing ever? Dude getting a tattoo of himself. With just like a cancer stick hanging out and just, looking like a prison thug.
Is he going to get a tattoo of himself with a tattoo?
Yeah,
Trumpception.
That would actually be the most Trump thing ever, is a tattoo of himself. All right, let's get to the predictions. Quickly, Aaron, go.
Trump will not actually spend any time in prison, like actual prison, in the prison cell. Now, he could be under some form of light incarceration, so they can say, hey, we got you. But
right.
I don't think he's going to actually spend time in, prison.
We have 40 seconds, Todd. Go, quick.
The NFL is going to have to cancel its Brazil game because they already are getting like threats against players.
Yeah, they're telling teams they can't wear green, and they put 2 teams that wear green in the game.
Yeah,
that was smart. Okay. Tracy.
I have faith in the people of the world that the bird flu pandemic attempt will fail wildly and we will all remain free.
We'll see. They're pretty stubborn with that election variant, as we have learned in the past, so we shall see. All right, my prediction is there's not going to be a debate on June 27th. They're going to go back to saying what they said before, what I thought they were going to say all along. We don't have to debate convicted felons, and so we're not going to. It's pretty clear the White House apothecary is done. I mean, there's no concoction witch's brew left after what happened at the D-Day situation yesterday. There's nothing left. He's gone. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it. All right, we'll come back. It'll be your turn for Feedback Friday. When we do, stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2 and the conclusion of Harris and Butker Week. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that'll be thankful, as much as I admire this dude, that I'm not going to wear this jersey again anytime soon, because at this point it is wearing me. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email us, steve@stevedeace.com. You can like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you dig the show, especially the podcast version, thank you. If you wouldn't mind, and if you have yet to do this, please leave us a 5-star review over on the podcast platform of your choice, particularly if it's iTunes, where most podcasts are accessed these days. You can also hit subscribe, or if you are on iTunes, follow, and that way every time we do a new show, it will show up in your feed every single time. And thanks to all of you that have done that for us as well. This part of the show brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Made. I mean, I absolutely love my Miracle Made sheets. I miss them when I'm on the road because they're just a fantastic product. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabric that makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep the perfect temperature all night long. And as I've told you before, last summer, we've now lived in this same home for 18 years. Last summer was the first summer ever in that home that I have not had to turn the ceiling fan on to augment the AC so that I'm cool enough at night. And we had one of the hottest Julys on record in the state of Iowa last year. That's how good these sheets are. Okay, Steve, that's great when it's warm, but what about when it's cool? Same thing. We had one of the coldest Januaries on record in Iowa earlier this year, and they were fantastic during that period of time as well. By the way, that same silver-infused fabric that helps with temperature regulating at night, it also helps with self-cleaning. And will help to dispatch about 99.7% of the bacterial growth that you'll find on various sheets, so they stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than the average sheets you'll buy at the store as well. And plus, they're very comfy. Let's not bury the lead here. They're also very comfy. All right, so if you'd like to try them, and you do, trust me, go to trymiracle.com/Deace to try them today. Whether buying them for yourself or a loved one as a gift. If you order today, you're going to save over 40%. And if you use our promo code DEACE at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. And Miracle is so confident in the product, it's backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. But trust me, you won't be giving them back because they're that good. All right, so trymiracle.com/Deace. Use the promo code DEACE for the big discounts. Trymiracle.com/Deace. Use the promo code DEACE for the big discounts, and you will not regret it. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right, we're going to begin. This note's a little lengthy. However, it fits right in the wheelhouse of what our theme is this year of Dominion, and also applies it to an issue that we have been spending a good deal of time talking about in recent weeks. So I wanted to give it the time. All right. So this is a note that comes from Christine Agin. And she writes, I'm a veteran homeschool mom who used to run the local homeschool co-op. During COVID, God called me to start a private school. I have based it on kind of the homeschool co-op model. It is supposed to be homeschooling for people who can't homeschool, basically. Our first battle was location. No local churches would host us. You might want to know where she lives. We'll get to that later. I'll just tell you now, though. She's in Montana, guys. Not Massachusetts. Not Maryland, where Larry Hogan is the right winger. She's in Montana. No local churches would host her. She says it was beyond frustrating. You have these empty buildings. Indeed. Think about the megapolis that you and I and many evangelicals go to worship at on a daily or a weekly basis out in the burbs and exurbs. What's that 50 to 100,000 square feet and 1 to 3 acres being used for Tuesday at 10 a.m.? What's going on there? Anybody know? Thursday at 2. What's happening? What's happening there Thursday at 2? Aaron, you know many of these places? What's going on there? See a lot of empty parking lots. Yeah. A lot of lawn mowing. What's going on inside the building? Thursday at 2 at many of these places. Anybody know? You could walk in. Is this? Oh, sure. I mean, there's so little activity, your voice will just echo off the walls. Be a great place to rescue a bunch of kids from demonic influence in the schools, wouldn't it?
One would think.
One would think, indeed. She goes on to say, finally, we eventually had a church step up. Not surprisingly, it wasn't one of the mega churches. It was a small church who's been struggling since their old pastor left. The new pastor said God told him to reach out to the community through involvement in the schools. He wasn't sure how that would look when he ran into until he ran into one of our teachers. His church building is small. We will max out at 36 students, but my new plan is to get individual churches to host satellite locations in those buildings. We may finally have location number 2. Surprise, surprise. It's another small, struggling church. I can't even get most pastors to talk about our school. No one knows we are here. There is no other Christian school for more than a 40-minute drive. And the local pastors won't announce to their congregations that, hey, there's a Christian school in our valley now, and we should support it. My husband and I are not wealthy people, yet we took $100,000 out of our retirement savings to loan the school the startup costs to purchase the curriculum and playground equipment and try to install security doors in the church. I did all the paperwork to set up the 501c3 so we could get charitable giving going, but the donors are few. No one seems to know that we are here and that this is where the mission field is. And the battle is for the future with our own children. We have a widow and orphan fund that scholarships children that lost a parent. 3 children signed up with this last year. The vast majority of our fundraising went to them. We have a financial aid program, but I'm struggling to get donors. I even came up with this idea that you could sponsor a child like Compassion International does. That's a great idea, by the way. Just $50 a month can help a child who would otherwise can't afford it get a Christian education. That is a great idea. It takes 11 people signing up for this to fully fund one student. After repeated asks and letters to the churches, we only have 15 people who signed up to help us monthly. So there is a waiting list for financial aid that is holding up our own student enrollment. Are you getting just an anecdotal, individual picture of why we are here? We haven't been outwitted. We haven't been outsmarted. We haven't even been outlasted. We can't be outlasted. Upon this rock I will build my church, and even the gates of hell will prevail against it. We cannot be outlasted. Voltaire told the French church that he would live to see the day that the Bible was obsolete. After he died, the French church bought his home and began printing and publishing Bibles out of it, and has ever since. We cannot be outlasted. We just gave up. When I say on this show, this is the first era in the history of Christendom that the church just quit. Just got up and said, pour one out. Like Doughboy at the end of Boys in the Hood. Except someone actually died. This just... Peace out. We're done here. We are? I mean, that's an option. You can do that. This is what I mean. This is a blatant example of what I'm talking about. We just quit. The church in this country just quit. It just quit. Before it even took a punch, it quit. This wasn't Roberto Duran getting his ass whooped in the first round, no mas. Before it even took a punch, right when it had like total hegemony in the culture and could get almost any election result it wanted, it just decided, peace out. We're good. Just quit. It just quit. It just friggin' quit.
This is why I said what I said about the Republican Party last hour. Yeah, get rid of it, but the Republican Party is the way it is because the church is the way it is.
Correct. That whole binding and loosening thing that you Catholics talk about all the time. Yeah, that's right there in the Bible. Let's go back to her note. Enrollment has struggled because parents expect us. Now listen to this next part. Enrollment has struggled because parents expect us to be state-of-the-art when they are paying private school tuition. There is this idea put out by the existence of government schools that education can only be done by certain facilities and in certain conditions. However, the families that took it, in other words, if this doesn't have, all the great technology that they use to put Google in there to monitor every last thing that your kid's being taught, then it's not really a school. That kind of stuff, right? Has to have all the bells and whistles, etc.
It's got to be comfortable, Steve.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. However, the families that took a chance on us love the school. Their kids are excelling, which I knew they would. They are getting all the benefits of homeschooling that we have known about for years. It just doesn't look like what parents expect. Breaking through that mindset is our biggest struggle besides money. Our enrollment has doubled over last year, but we still haven't even hit break-even numbers. So I decided to tackle your other challenge. I wrote a school choice bill for my state in Montana. It utilizes refundable tax credits for out-of-pocket educational expenses. I modeled it after the Iowa law and used my expertise as an accountant to improve it and craft it to Montana tax law. I have found 3 local politicians who have offered to carry it into the next legislative session, should they win their individual primaries. And last week I got a chance to meet with the governor. He is supportive of school choice, but said he wanted to expand ESA accounts rather than do tax credits. My lawyer at HSLDA said the HSLDA will not support ESAs, but will support tax credits. That's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, by the way. So my new goal is to do tax credits for the homeschoolers and a separate bill expanding ESAs for private schools. Why not just do both then? And so now I'm writing 2 bills for the next legislative session, trying to get funds for my school and increase enrollment. And all the while running my small accounting firm and homeschooling my 2 high schoolers. I am exhausted. You think? My husband handles a ton of the day-to-day contacts with local churches and business owners, and the lion's share of the fundraising that has occurred is due to his business contacts and no nonsense calling people out for the lack of community involvement. Todd would be his kindred spirit. My school principal is doing dual work teaching the middle school class and running day-to-day operations of the school because we couldn't afford both a teacher and a principal. She's the hardest working lady out there. But I'm concerned that I'm starting to see signs of burnout. I don't know if you will read this letter. I'm sure you get a lot, but I figured it was worth a shot. Maybe there are any of your listeners that could help. Our school website is make sure I get this right. Bitterroot, I can't read it, actually. BitterrootHeritageAcademy.org. There it is. BitterrootHeritageAcademy.org. BitterrootHeritageAcademy.org is the name of their website. We're trying to fight, but the mama bears here need some help. Look at what this woman and her husband have accomplished, number one. But they've had to do it all on their own. And it just... If you're a spirit-filled believer, you are likely the church equivalent of a latchkey kid. And you're probably going to a church that the spiritual fathers that are supposed to be handling these kinds of things in the community, they're just not there. Both parents are gone when you show up on Sunday. And you're getting the equivalent of, I'm just home watching TV after school. Well, you're getting that kind of a dumbed-down message. But everything will be done in 38 minutes to make sure you're out on time. Christine, you and your husband are freaking amazing, first of all. Someone needs to tell you that, so I'm going to. You guys are absolutely amazing. And you probably don't hear that often enough, so let me say it in front of hundreds of thousands of people right now. You're amazing. Absolutely amazing. May your house increase. And I know it can be tough, man. Seven years ago, I was on a radio network that one of my own business partners had to write the check to keep it solvent so that I could have a platform, so they wouldn't go bankrupt and they could pay their payroll. I mean, we had to grind from nothing to build this up to, by God's grace, whatever this is now, to get to this point. So I've seen in my own life, if you stay in the race and you endure, I've seen God honor that. So finish the race. And well done, good and faithful servants. Again, their website is bitterrootheritageacademy.org. Gentlemen, have any thoughts on that one before we move on?
Well, you're in the company of the great saints throughout history who may ultimately only be blessed as a cautionary tale for future generations, because we are just simply living in the generation of Isaiah 1. Where would you yet be struck? It's not if this doesn't work out the way you hoped, just remember, it's absolutely not your fault. Oh, it's somebody's fault, but it's not yours.
It always strikes me how many of the things that we see around us that we tend to concentrate and maximize the things we have very little influence over, and tend to minimize and downplay the great number of things that we do have influence over. One of the things that we do have influence over is our own families. Pastors, you have great influence over your own congregation, or you should anyway. And this is a choice. It's a choice. This conversation that we're having right here, it is, yes, a choice to give your kids a Christian education. It's a choice on the part of the churches that were just detailed to not aid and abet that. So what is the choice that they're making? They're choosing the path of least resistance now, most resistance later when you send your kids to government schools, even in Montana. So many things that we have a choice over. So many things within our own sphere of influence that we could take dominion over, that the answer is no, we're going to make the wrong choice, or the choice that seems easy now. And what was the name of the emailer? I'm sorry.
Christine.
Yeah, I've got the website pulled up here. God bless you. God bless you. And I pray that your testimony here, not only, I hope you're encouraged by this, but I hope that hearing your testimony will spur others to action, to say it can be done, despite the resistance and not having a lot of help from area churches. Things like this can be done. If we had more Christines, if we had 5 or 6 in every state spread strategically, I think things would look different for a lot of families really fast.
By the way, in the last 40 years, Montana has been won by a Democrat in a presidential election one time. And that was 1992, the outlier year where Ross Perot did a lot to split the Republican vote. In the last 40 years, it's been a red state every presidential election cycle, other than the Ross Perot outlier year of 1992. And she couldn't find a single church to host this. We just quit. Steve, why do you focus your show so much on our own side and what we're doing wrong? Then give me the Chuckle Hut talking points. Ha, 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 ha. Look at the hypocrisy and demonic losers on the other side. This. Steve, why is a biblical worldview the focus of your show and not the latest Chuckle Hut talking points that help me and help everybody else engagement farm, the conversation we just had? This conversation we just had literally is why we do everything we do and the way that we do it. As confrontational as we do it, as in your face as we do it, it does not have to end the way that it looks like it's ending. It doesn't. We just quit.
And we think we got a better offer. Amazing. The church, really, it does. It thinks it got a better offer. Amazing.
All right, before we move on, it is another great, well, it's basically summer. It's post-Memorial Day. Summer's officially a couple of weeks away, but we're in the heart of grill out season, so make sure you try our friends over at Backyard Butchers. They're a Christian conservative Texas-based company dedicated to delivering the best deals in the market on high-quality beef. Your box is going to include all born and raised American beef from ranches right here in the heartland of America. It is fantastic. I've tried it myself. Grass-fed, grain-finished. The meat does taste amazing. And so you can cut out the frustration from the meat aisle. Go to backyardbutchers.com. Save an extra 20% off your entire order by using the code DACE. And when you subscribe, and you should, because the meat's that good, when you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off and free shipping. All right, so a great source for beef, chicken, and more. Go to backyardbutchers.com/Dace. Join one of their over 500,000 happy customers across the country. Find out why they've got so many 5-star reviews online. Again, you'll save 20% off your first entire order when you use the code DACE at backyardbutchers.com/Dace. And if you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off and free shipping. Backyardbutchers.com/Dace. Again, head over to backyardbutchers.com/Dace. All right, let's move on. Oh boy. Dear Steve, this is from Sean. I had lunch with 2 people recently over a 24-hour period. Number 1 is a COVID shot truther, but also an always Trumper. And number 2 is a gay pediatrician. It was an amazing display of cognitive dissonance on both ends of the spectrum. Number one knows about the COVID shot, knows about shedding, knows about Wuhan, knows the whole story, but doesn't hold Trump accountable for it at all. Thinks he's in no way responsible for the shot he keeps taking credit for, and he shouldn't even have to acknowledge the reality of the shot. He's convinced the brothers be flippin' and Hispanics are sick of Biden, and he also believes that New York is in play for Trump. He says Trump is going to win bigly. And this year, and even though the last 3 elections were all stolen, that this year it's somehow going to be different. But he doesn't say how. He also said DeSantis is a neocon who supports aid to Ukraine. He said there's no way Jared and Ivanka will be back with Trump in the White House, and Vivek is great. Oh, and the Rockefellers are fake Jews who are Satanists who control worldwide banking. Number 2 is a former poker buddy, a pediatrician. When we were in the same poker group years ago, he was married and a father of 4. Now he hates his kids, is married to a dude, and says that 2-year-olds can know if they are really in the wrong gender or not. His daughter is now a guy. He said he was shocked when he was told that people think gay people are prone to pedophilia. He didn't believe it was true that kindergarten teachers have shown kids how to put a condom on a banana, or a middle school teacher shows students how to masturbate. He thinks the COVID shots are also safe and effective. I could go on, but by now you get the point. Intellectually, I knew these ends of the spectrum existed. But it is suffocating when you see them in person close together in a relatively short window called your own existence. Makes you think there's no hope for this culture. I know God is sovereign and in control, which is of great comfort to me, but I also know that God judges nations who do not honor him. That is from Sean. Remember what I said earlier this week? The greatest fault line in this culture is not populist globalist. It's not left versus right. It's not even Christian and pagan. And those fault lines exist and they are important. But the preeminent fault line is those who desire objective truth and then will act on it. What is objectively true? I want to know what is objectively true. If we're going to put fancy stained glass window words on this, those who who desire to live exegetically and those who desire to live eisegetically. Those who desire to seek the truth and then let it tell them and inform them how they should think, believe, and behave. And those who have already determined how they want to think, believe, and behave, and then will seek out the truth that will affirm their narrative, or they'll just change the truth to do so. Which side is winning in our current epistemological civil war?
It's always the worst one, whatever that is.
It is the worst one. And by the way, that is why the Christian versus pagan, populist versus globalist, and left versus right fault lines exist as they do. That's why they exist as they do. I was watching college football broadcast from the 60s last night. Just out of curiosity, the actual broadcasts. And you see some like political commercials in there. I've talked about the ones you see from the 80s where Republicans are literally running ads. We just need to execute more criminals. And you're just like, what earth is this? How do I get back on this timeline? They said this stuff? Like, you campaigned on stuff like, you could just say we need to execute more bad people, and people are like, that's a great idea. Do you remember that era?
Yeah.
It apparently existed. You and I were munchkins. Well, let me give you another timeline. Most of these campaign ads are just about what matters that we would consider to be largely trivial. It's not the most important election of your lifetime. It's not, the world will end. Does anybody recall what was the defining issue in the election Rutherford B. Hayes won? Go. You can't think of it. You don't know. You don't know what the hell a Rutherford B. Hayes is. You know why? Now, were those elections important? I'm sure they were. But on an existential level, was like the entire geopolitical axis of the country going to change based on the election of 1870-something? No, it wasn't. Or 1900-something. Nope, it wasn't. This whole idea that whole different slates of virtues get introduced every single election cycle depending on who wins largely did not exist outside of a few periods of time, like leading up to and then immediately after the Civil War, for example. But, that's why we had a Civil War, okay? Other than that era, pretty much Most of American life did not change. Whether Thomas Jefferson or John Adams won the election of 1804. Most of American life didn't change. Most of American life wasn't going to be much different if Truman won or Dewey. It wasn't. Is life in America dramatically different on multiple levels right now than it was like in 2019? Yeah, it is. How about, was life in America different from when Barack Obama left office compared to what it was before he took over? Yeah, like fundamentally on many levels. That's not how this is supposed to work. And we're here because we won't agree on, we don't even want to know what is objectively true. I want my talking points, they want their talking points. And I am concerned that I am concerned. I will crap myself more than Joe Biden, but I'm concerned nevertheless that my loaded diaper does not stink. And I will go to the people who will tell me this. I watched friendships end on Twitter 2 weeks ago. People who have been fighting, who were in an exclusive group of people that I was late to the fight, and I gave a platform to many of these people. We're one of the few people actually defending the January 6thers from day one. You guys saw this.
Yeah.
And I watched these people just turn on each other and destroy each other and just blacklist each other and end each other over whether something that can be proven whether or not it is objectively true is true. And now I see my own colleague, Steve Baker, who may go to prison for telling the truth about this, for being there as a reporter on January 6th. While a lot of keyboard warriors have gotten book contracts and made a hell of a lot of money just typing about this, he was there. Putting his own future at risk. And now I see in his replies, people call him controlled opposition. You're really a Fed. He's a simp. No chance against the spirit of the age. You are never going to self-deceive yourself more than the other side will. You are never going to be better at a lack of self-awareness than they're going to be. Never. Because their father is the father of lies. There's always another floor in their debasement that they will succumb to. There's no line, no shame. You'll never beat them that way. The only thing that beats deception is clarity. The only thing that beats a lie is the truth. Not a better crafted lie. Not a better crafted narrative. All those other fault lines are tributaries. The mouth of the river is. How many people want to know what is objectively true? You want to know why most presidential elections in America were not existential? Because by and large, despite disagreements, people were interested in what was objectively true. In those days, and in these days, they are not. Well, folks, there is a phenomenal ministry opportunity happening right now in the nation of Israel. And I think that this is something that Christians of large persuasion can get behind. Because, yes, it's a very secular country. Yes, it is way more, even more than we are, pro baby killing and especially rainbow jihad. But it has one of the youngest median age populations in the democratized world, and they're spiritually curious, and they're asking a lot of questions. And that's why we partnered with our friends at Voice of Judah. They aim to inspire evangelism, discipleship, and church planting in the land of Israel. And one of the key ways they do this is they use humanitarian outreach as a way to support all Israelis, especially during the time that they've been undergoing since October the 7th. The fields are ripe for harvest there in the Holy Land where our faith was born. Let's join with Voice of Judah together to seize this moment and bring the message of Messiah to the Holy Land. If you want to partner with them, visit their website at VOJ, that's Voice of Judah, VOJisrael.org/Steve, VOJisrael.org/Steve. There you can learn more about the inspiring work that they're doing, reaching Israel for the gospel. That's VOJisrael.org/Steve. Again, VOJisrael.org/Steve for Voice of Judah. All right, let's get back here to some Feedback Friday. You guys ready for this?
Probably not, but let's do this.
Michelle writes, I love the show and have since the first time I've heard you guys. That's not a response we normally get. Now what's going to happen is everybody who ever loved the show from the first moment is all going to email me at the same time, and I appreciate that, so thank you.
Now I want to know which show she heard for the first time.
Correct, because this show can typically, the typical story is it has to be an acquired taste. Okay. Anyway, and not enough people have yet to acquire it, but we'll keep plugging away nevertheless. I'm a truth lover, though, so I'm an admitted oddball. Okay, well, now we have our explanation. Okay. I've been debating sending you this email for months. Honestly, I had to add to the heavy emotions you have, or I hate to add to the heavy emotions you've had witnessing the excess deaths from COVID. I feel like most people just don't get it, though, because they have no reference point. So here's mine. I deliver mail in a rural growing area in North Alabama. My route consists of about 615 homes and 10 to 15 businesses. Most of my customers are established homeowners to retired homeowners. This year, I have had 17 customers die suddenly. And 2 that either died this year or in December, but I didn't find out until this year. I have 14 customers that are battling serious illness, all heart, lung, and cancer related. I have never seen or heard anything like this, especially when I expand the view out to include other circles like coworkers, family, church, and community. I'm in between you and Todd age-wise. In the fall of last year, I lost an uncle that had recovered from cancer years ago, but it came back suddenly and went turbo, although no one at the time used that term. He was gone within weeks of finding out. I lost a classmate from middle school. All I know is he died suddenly. And then I lost a cousin on New Year's Day. He had a stroke. He was only a year and a half older than me. I could go on and on and on about this involving coworkers and the church community. But since this is getting long, I won't burden you. I can just tell you, this isn't normal. And people need to hang. After a fair trial, of course. That's from Michelle, who says, thanks for all you do. And I think I said this on the show yesterday. I know I put it on social media. So if I did say it on the show and I'm repeating myself, forgive me. But that video yesterday of Biden at D-Day. And, you know, we have been talking about him with dementia since the Democrat primary in 2020.
Yes.
So I was trying to figure out, why did this particular scene just strike me so much when we've talked about this for 4 years now, 5 years now. I think it's the juxtaposition of seeing the near 100-year-old D-Day veterans that are demonstrably in stronger cognitive shape than he is, which really drives home his affliction. The man is ill. Let's just set aside politics, ideology, and everything and begin for a second. There's a guy named James R. Biden, and he has dementia. And it's very obvious, and you can see those signs even more blatantly when your control group is a bunch of men older than him who served in World War II. And he is struggling to communicate even with people that are generationally more his speed, right? That really shows up then. It's a little bit like if you and I, let me use this as an analogy. If you and I went out Peyton Manning's last year in the NFL, and if we just watched Peyton Manning throw the football around the ball yard, we couldn't tell the difference between 1997 Peyton Manning and 2017 Peyton Manning, right? Because it's Peyton friggin' Manning. But if you put him on the field with other players, you could see his last year there with the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl. They won it in spite of him. I mean, there were throws he made in his sleep his entire career he could not make anymore, right? You could see the decline when he was up against his own peer group. If we saw him in the wild by himself, we would just be like, I've never seen anybody throw a football like this. And chances are, if you saw Peyton Manning at 50 now, like tomorrow, just throwing a ball in the yard, you'd think the exact same thing, right? But if you put him with a peer group of football players, if we took 50-year-old Peyton Manning and said, all right, start quarterback for my football team, and today, what would happen? He would get killed. I mean, he just couldn't do it. And that's what you saw with Joe Biden. Like, this should be a group that's his speed. They're, people aren't talking a mile a minute. You know what I'm saying? These guys are on the downside of life, And even in this setting, he looked old. He looked like he was gone compared to that peer group, which really drives this home. That, again, let's just set aside what you think of Trump, whether you hate him or love him, Cheeto Jesus saves, Orange Man bad. Just as a standalone construct, is it good for a nation of this magnitude to have such a feeble being be the person inhabiting its most powerful and influential position? Is that a good thing?
No, but that's why if they can afford to get him across the finish line, they're going to try. We've talked. When are they going to bail him? We've had that conversation for a long time. But this speaks directly to your point, Steve. If they can continue to get him across the finish line like this, it says more about all of us than it actually says about Joe Biden.
Which is where I'm exactly going to go next. Because I want to look at that and say, it honestly shouldn't even matter if the Republicans nominated a glad bag. Like, the country can't continue like this. Right. Like, it just, I mean, whether someone's conservative enough for you, liberal enough for you, has better character or not for you, has cheated on his wife or not. Bottom line, I mean, in any other era, the country would have just looked at each other and said, guys, I mean, this just...
Yeah, if this was Winston Churchill, you'd say, thank you for your service, but your time has come.
Yeah, this can't move on.
You take the car keys away from Grandpa.
We cannot give this individual the nuclear football, full stop, and then we'll consider what the options are after that, right? Because the Democrats don't have to ride the storm out here. They could just send him on his merry way and put Kamala Harris in there, but we all know she'd lose the election, okay? So this should just be a standalone construct. It isn't healthy for a society with the amount of wealth and weapons of mass destruction that this one has access to have that feeble of a being in the most powerful office in the world. That's not good. Well, Stevie's not making any decisions anyway. That's not good. That also then means a whole bunch of people you don't know, can't name, and nobody voted for are actually making the decisions. Any way you spin this, it's bad. Any way you spin it, it's a bad situation, right? And I looked at that video yesterday. My first thought was, Steve, throw out all your analysis, all your data. There's no way the American people are going to let this go on. And then the other half of my brain clicked in right as I began entertaining that thought and said, you mean like they were never going to just let themselves be locked down for a lie, masked up for a myth, and repeatedly just take jab after jab after jab to poison themselves and then demand, and then when they could like pawn off their own culpability and guilt onto the people who did this, they're not demanding anybody. We're not even offering up like scapegoats. Okay. No one is to be blamed for this. No one is.
Thank you for your service, Dr. Fauci.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The only thing that explains this is what we talked about for an hour yesterday on Theology Thursday.
A Romans 1 judgment?
A Romans 1 judgment. The wrath of God has been revealed against, unrighteousness, ungodliness, the specific sin of what? Suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. That it was just what you were talking about at the end of last segment too. Both sides do this because I'm not really, fundamentally, they're not really sides here. We're just competing to get to the bottom of the ash heap faster. That's what we are. We're not better than that. That's the only thing that explains this.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I want to make sure we end on a high note because we have a couple of notes that are worthy of doing that. So we're going to do that here in a minute. And part of ending on a high note is telling you about Eden Pure because a lot of you have sent me fantastic feedback about Eden Pure. And I mentioned, I think, last week, I'm the idiot. We've got those smelly oils that plug into the wall. We got those all throughout the house. And I got one out to put in the wall unit, and I set it down on a table in the hallway in my man cave, and then I forgot it was there. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, why does my man cave smell like the garbage bin at a floral shop? And then I went over and realized, I left this oil canister on the table and it's leaked all over the table. So now we're in the basement. It's not necessarily the most well ventilated place in the house. How are we gonna get this smell out? Amy's like, dude, just plug in the Eden Pure. Did 15 minutes, it was gone, completely gone. So I've got my own Eden Pure story now. Just like many of you do. It is the air purifier you don't want to miss out on. It is not a freshener, okay? I didn't say it made the air smell better. I said I got rid of the bad stuff in the air. That's what it does. It is a purifier. It goes after the components and the bacteria and even viruses that are causing the air in your home that you want to do something about. Not even human odor and cigarette smoke or any match whatsoever for the Eden Pure. If you want to try it today, you can get the 3-pack for whole home protection for under $200 if you use the discount code STEVE3 when you go to EdenPureDeals.com. That's discount code STEVE3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Again, save $200 with the discount code STEVE3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Okay, let's close out with these. This is from Thomas Hill, who says, I wanted to respond to something you guys said recently, talking about school choice, how it would be difficult for small churches to step up. I would contend that small churches are more capable than most would assume with their faithful believers. I've attended a church that has a weekly attendance of less than 100 all of my life. And I'm only 19, so that's not particularly long. Well, it's still 19 years. My church has survived multiple pastor transitions, leaving the UMC, God bless you, and joining the Wesleyan Church, and even separating from the church we were originally a satellite campus of. We've had many members come and go over the years. Despite that, we are plenty capable of stepping up to help meet the need created by expanded school choice. Currently, we provide meals to over 30 students in a local elementary through Blessings in a Backpack. We sponsor almost 20 children who are survivors of human trafficking through Destiny Rescue. We support multiple overseas missionaries as well as 2 church plants right here in Indiana. We hold an annual fall festival for the community, host a summer vacation Bible school. We do Filipino outreach and are now looking at partnering with a local daycare to allow them to use our church during the week. My point is that small churches can do a lot more than most would give us credit for. And despite having small membership and being in a more rural location, the ability of faithful believers to steward resources, we can make any size of church able to step in. While we can't open a Christian school yet, we can support the expansion of school choice in so many ways, like, for example, hosting a Christian daycare. So don't let the churches of any size off the hook for pitching in where they can and doing all they can to do with whatever resources and talents that God has given them. Every church has a big part to play.
That's of course true, but I would wager to say from the child to the 80-year-old in your church, most of the people there fundamentally understand that at every phase of their life, most of it, if not all of it, explicitly belongs to God. Mm-hmm. Whereas most people going to church these days think this sliver does, and the rest of it is my time.
Correct.
That's
and
it.
Who lets them leave the church with that belief?
Yeah,
the pulpit does.
Yeah.
And that's what Charles Finney was talking about on the show here a few days ago. Along those same lines, I've got to share a huge praise with you. A few months ago, I told you about a national effort to provide Bible education classes to public school students during school hours through LifeWise Academy. As long as the classes are off school property, privately funded, and parental permission is given, it is completely legal and constitutional. So I set up a meeting with our county's superintendent. I presented the value of the program to her and ended with the challenge. We can keep grumbling and mourning about the loss of basic morality in our culture, or we can light a candle. Let's light a candle. And she loved it. But I could tell she was timid to pull the trigger on her own. She'd asked me to try to convince all the principals as well. I told her to set up a meeting and I would be there. A month later, I met with all the principals and vice principals in my county. I presented the value of the program for our students and ended with the same challenge. All were in favor, or at least they didn't publicly voice their opposition. I asked the superintendent if we can now move forward. She said, before we do, I'd like you to try and convince the school board as well. I told her to line up the meeting and I'll be there. A month later, I attended our monthly school board meeting and presented the value of the program and ended with the same challenge about lighting a candle. I was basically told there was no way they'd vote on it that night, but would table it for more discussion where it might just die on the vine. However, after I presented the value of the program for the students and ended with the same challenge to light a candle, they took a vote that night and it passed 4-2. So next school year in Martin County, North Carolina, every elementary school will provide the option of Bible education classes to our 1st through 5th grade students. The gospel message will be unapologetically proclaimed for all who attend. You're right. Let's find out. Take dominion. All praise and glory to God. That is from Eric. Eric, by the way, also passed along. He has 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, was a member of Mensa, an Eagle Scout. No, he didn't. Actually, just a guy named Eric. Just a guy named Eric. Just decided to just jump in the race and, hey, I'm a guy named Eric. I think we should do this. What do y'all think? Now, I bet you if we looked at the demographics of Martin County, North Carolina, it's basically an adjunct of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, probably, right? Okay? Nevertheless, there's a lot of counties like that in this country, correct?
Sure.
Are they doing this? Nope. That's why, to me, someone sent me a note this morning saying their church is getting ready to do a series on faith and politics and what I consider any suggestions of what they do. And one of the suggestions I gave them is, if you're going to mobilize people politically in the church, practice the same model that Christ gives with the Great Commission and evangelism. Work inside out. Start local and work out. Don't start with your faith and freedom, hackneyed, likely biased voter guide that just basically, wants to immediately turn everybody into a mascot for a party that actually hates them. Just doesn't have the courage to tell them, and the Democrats do. Start inside out. Almost no one shows up for these local elections. Almost no one shows up for these local events. A church that's well organized could literally just take over the town with minimal mobilization and commitment. So what is the Great Commission? First to Jerusalem, then to Judea, then to Samaria, and then to the ends of the earth. Inside out. Do the same thing if you're going to mobilize the faithful. Inside out. There's a lot of Martin counties, North Carolina, that could look every bit as red as Los Angeles County is blue, and Oakland, Alameda County is blue, and Cook County is blue. We just don't do it. So start there. That's where you have dominion. Take it. We're going to stick around and do overtime. Great job by you, Eric and Thomas. Thank you guys for ending on a high note, setting an example for us. We're going to stick around and do overtime for the subscribers. For the rest of you, we'll see you again on Monday. I promise I won't be wearing this shirt again, because I hope not. Until then, Romans 8:28.